Fitness and Wellness series with spectacular downtown views. Monday on the KTLA 5 Morning News at 11 a.m. Now at 3, Orange County reporting its youngest COVID death after a child under the age of 5 dies from coronavirus complications.
And Trevor Bauer's leave is extended amid an ongoing sexual assault investigation. Officials say the Dodger star won't be returning to the field for the rest of the season.
And remembering the day that reshaped our nation, we are reflecting on the horror and the heroism of the 9/11 terrorist attacks 20 years later. Good afternoon, I'm Glenn Walker.
And I'm Lauren Lister in for Lou Parker. Ceremonies are planned around the nation tomorrow to mark 20 years since the 9/11 attacks.
Here at home, Pepperdine University is memorializing those lives lost with their Waves of Flags display on the Malibu campus. Nearly 3,000 flags will fly along the Pacific Coast Highway to commemorate the victims. KTLA 5's Wendy Birch live in Malibu with more. Wendy?
Glenn and Lauren, you know, it's not the first year that I've covered this, but yet each and every year, as I stand here in the middle of these flags, nearly 3,000 of them, I'm taken aback, almost speechless. I mean, there's a sense of patriotism that, of course, comes from seeing all of these flags, but an inherent sense of sadness as well when you really recognize that each one of these American flags represents one of the victims from 9/11. As we come upon the 20th anniversary, perhaps ceremonies and areas like this, memorials like this, mean more to many people as they reflect on where they were some 2 decades ago. Now, the Waves of Flags has been an institution here at this university for the past 14 years. There are nearly 3,000 flags, as I mentioned. There's also a flag representing every country who lost someone on that tragic day nearly 20 years ago. There will be a significant ceremony tomorrow here at this campus. There will be moments of silence. There will be laying of wreaths. There will be a special tribute by Gary Sinise later in the afternoon. But I have to take a step back and go back to when this all began some 14 years ago. There was actually a student here at Pepperdine University that was aboard that tragic flight United 93 who acted so heroically. And out of his sacrifice came an idea by a student to do something like this, but they didn't have the funding. So they approached a person who was very close to the university. You'll know his name, Pat Boone. Of course, he was so popular for singing and acting in the 50s and 60s. But it was just a couple of years ago when I met up with Pat Boone and I asked him about his involvement. And here was his, what at the time was a surprising answer.
When a young college student here, Chris Garcia came to me. He was a junior or senior. He had this idea. I proposed it to President Benton. He said, well, it's a little too quick. We can't get it organized, and we don't know where to get the flags. I said, I'll pay for the flags, and I did.
And that was 14 years ago. That's right. Pat Boone actually purchased all of the flags that are still flying here some 14 years later. Again, the tributes and the ceremonies tomorrow are all open to the public. And these flags, they'll be up here until the 25th. By the way, it took about 180 volunteers, 2 straight days to put up all these flags. It's always beautiful, it's breathtaking, and it's a wonderfully patriotic moment to stand here in the middle of them. That's the very latest from here in Pepperdine in Malibu at this hour. I'm Wendy Birch, and I'll send it back to you.
Wendy, thank you, and great backstory. Now stay with KTLA for continuing coverage as we remember 9/11. We will have a live report from Jersey City coming up in just a few minutes.
A child under the age of 5 has been confirmed as Orange County's youngest COVID-19 death. The Orange County Health Care Agency says the child had underlying health conditions and died of complications related to the coronavirus. Health officials are urging parents with unvaccinated kids to take precautions against COVID-19.
LA Unified parents are reacting to the school board's approval of mandatory COVID vaccines for students 12 and older. KTLA's Mark Mester has been following this story all day. He joins us live from Westlake District. Mark, good afternoon.
Lauren, good afternoon to you, where classes have just been let out. And if these students, if they're over the age of 12 and they want to continue in-person learning starting next year, they're now required to have the COVID-19 vaccine.
The item passes.
Thank you.
Celebration from the nation's second largest school board after voting unanimously to require all students 12 years and older to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Students are now required to get their first shot no later than